I'm Kat Sturtz from rockingyourpath.com, and I have a special treat today. We've got 5 speakers joining me, and we're all going to be talking about how we make working from home work for us. And first up today is Natalie Lavelock, who has made things work for us today, calling in by phone because her internet's out because bad storms blew through her area in Missouri, right? Over by
Yeah,
St.
that's
Louis.
right.
All the way over here to me here in Michigan. Mine was out earlier, and we're just making this work.
That's
And
right.
we like that we have some people joining us in the room today. We've got Steve Henry, who will be back again in and out throughout the day and speaking at 11 a.m. Eastern time if you're watching this live. It may be a different time if you're watching the recording. And we have Tina all the way from Incheon, South Korea. So we've got the globe kind of covered here right now. Natalie is an online business coach and program development specialist who helps coaches, speakers, and service-based professionals turn their expertise into multiple streams of income with lucrative signature programs, products, and online courses. And she's also a registered nurse with a master's in nursing education. So she's got lots of expertise, and like me, has farm experience. She and her family live on a small farm in central Missouri, where I used to do dairy farming here in Michigan. And she's got 3 kids at home, a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 12-year-old. So she's making it work from home, and that's what she's going to be talking to us about. Secrets to success at work and at home. Natalie, I'm giving you the floor for a while. What have you got to share with us today?
All right, Kat. Well, so, one of the things that really becomes important when you are working at home is understanding or making it a point to understand what your values are and what your goals are. Because it's very easy, especially, I know, so entrepreneurs tend to be more driven, right? They tend to be a little, I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do this, but I want to do it all right now and I want it done yesterday, and with that tends to come a tendency for workaholism. And so it's nothing for me to get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and start working on something and still be working on it at 10 o'clock, midnight, whatever. And then the next day, do the same thing over and over and over again. And then at the end of the week, I go, I didn't really spend much time with my kids this week. And so one of the things that I did early on was I sat down and I wrote out, what are my values? What is most important to me? Because we can say what's most important to us in this world, but if we're not actually taking action on it, then it's just words, right? So I sat down and I wrote out, what are my values? What do I think is most important? And then day by day, I go down that list and it's like, okay, is this truly, like, if someone looking from the outside saw what I did today, would they say this was my highest priority? So, learning your values, then setting goals. What do you need to accomplish? What do you need to accomplish today, tomorrow, the next month in order to make your goals happen? You start creating a plan for that. And then one of the things that has really helped me is to utilize online calendaring. And so I go in and I put everything on that calendar. And then so when people want to book appointments with me, it's already blocked or it's already open. And, then I don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, I have 3 dentist appointments today and somebody just booked a strategy call with me. And, you calendar that out and you block that out so that your time reflects your priorities.
Absolutely. I do the same thing. Block it on your calendar. Then you don't even have to worry about your booking calendar, remembering to block off those things. It takes care of it all by itself.
Yeah, yeah. And there's, so many great tools that entrepreneurs can use now, whether you're using Acuity scheduling or Calendly or some other form of scheduler, they all integrate, right? So they'll talk to your Google Calendar, and your Google Calendar will talk to those different platforms. And it just really helps to keep you from overbooking your time, overbooking yourself, and creating a mess of chaos. So, oh, go ahead. Looks like you had a question.
Well, we know one of the things we talked about that we wanted to present today in this virtual summit, when things are going wrong, how do we get back on track? How do we set boundaries for ourselves? How do we decide what we will let go of that are priorities? Because our values say maybe our family and taking care of our kids is a higher priority than this. So how do you balance some of those things?
This is perfect timing. That is such a great question, because I'm living a little bit of that right now. And I don't have a solution for my own problem right now, but I'm going to tell you what's going on, and tell you kind of what I'm thinking. So right now, as we talked about, my internet is down. I'm supposed to be getting on a plane this next week and flying to an event with, a few hundred people in attendance. I'm supposed to be speaking at this event. I was working with my coach last night. We're still tweaking my speech. My flyers and things aren't done yet, because the day before yesterday, the event host contacted me and said she was not going to approve my materials because it sounded too much like what she was offering. And so, that's fine. But in that moment, I went, oh my gosh, right? Like, we're less than a week out from this event, and she doesn't like my stuff, and I've got to start all over from scratch. And so, your mind starts going down this whole pathway of like panic, right? And fortunately, I have around me right now what I call my dream team. And so I just shot off an email to one of the members of my coaching staff, I guess. I don't know if I want to say staff because I've hired them. But anyways, she's like, okay, no big deal. Let's just tweak it to this. And so having that person just be like, this is no big deal, just takes the energy right out of it and allowed me to just go and refocus and say, okay, this isn't a big a deal. I don't need to create drama around this. Let's just tweak it and move on. And so, that's fine. We were working on the messaging and everything like that. But then today, now I still have things that need to be accomplished, and my internet is out. So I'm sitting here going, okay, time is passing. These are the things I need to do, A, B, C, D. What can I work on while the internet is down? Right? Now, which of these things, if the internet is down all day, is lowest priority? If it doesn't get done before the event, what's the worst thing that's going to happen, and can I just let go of it? So seeing as how it's like 7:30 in the morning here, well, I guess it's probably 8 o'clock by now, but anyways, I haven't completely worked that out, but that's the strategy is, if you have a support team around you that can get outside of your immediate response, your knee-jerk reaction, and they can be like, okay, I'm not involved with this. I'm not reacting. This is what we need to do. Just take a deep breath, and we're going to tweak this one thing, and we're going to refocus, and we're going to move on. Set those priorities again, figure out what you can let go of, figure out from then up, what's the most important thing that gets done, and just start from there.
Yeah, absolutely. What a lot of want-to-be coaches and beginning to build their business coaches don't understand is that the majority of those who are actively coaching, building our businesses, we have our own coaches.
Yes.
And if you value coaching and that's a service you want to sell to other people, you better value it enough to have your own coach to
Yes.
help you
And
through
if
those same things you just described, to help be that objective eye, to be an accountability partner, but in a slightly different way,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you caught what I said a minute ago, I said I have my dream team.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 coaches, and each one of them serves a very different and very specific function for my business. But having, I've always had one coach, um, and it just like it was focused on one area of my business, and everything was moving at a snail's pace. I don't like snail's pace. I don't think most entrepreneurs like snail's pace, but I do believe in turtle pace. Because you think of the tortoise and the hare, right? I don't want to move so fast that I have a shaky foundation underneath of me, that I haven't built things properly, and I don't have a sustainable business model. So I like to move at a tortoise's pace, but not a snail pace. And so what that meant was that I needed to bring on additional team members, additional coaches to support me in a couple different areas at the same time, so I could really get a comprehensive cart to start moving forward in, instead of just one wheel. So
Absolutely. And coaches do have their specialties. And if their specialty is helping you create content, but the problem you're having is in another area, creating more content isn't solving the underlying problem.
no, nor is, everybody talks about, oh, you got to be on Facebook, and you got to be writing blogs, and you got to be doing emails, and you got to be doing telesummits, and you got to be doing all these different things. But for somebody who's just starting out in business, those are not the fastest way to make money. Those are leveraged and passive income models. And so, I think that's why it's really good to have a business coach as one of the core members on your team, because they know what you need when you need it, and they can keep you from wasting money unnecessarily chasing shiny objects that look and sound good, but really are meant for people who are, at or beyond 6 figures in their business and have money to spend on those types of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to know, when my kids were young, and they're now in their upper 40s, so it's been a long time, and they live quite a distance from me, so I don't have the grandkids, and the great grandson are running around under my feet. But when they were young, I found one of the things that helped me be active on the farm, be active in business consulting and writing and editing work at that time, was to involve them in my business a little bit. My daughter was very good at filing papers for me because I had a color-coded system. So at 6, 7, and 8, she could read the color coding, and it didn't matter that she didn't understand what the papers were about, but she could help alphabetize, she could do other things. Do you involve your 3 boys in your business in any way? Do they help in any way other than give you
Right.
space when you need it?
Right now, most of what they do is behind the scenes stuff. Like if I'm getting ready for events, like they don't know it yet, but tonight we're gonna have a preparation party. But so for this event that's coming up, one of the things I'm doing is I'm taking these little chocolate bars as gifts for the VIP group, and they all have to have like my business card tucked inside and tied with a little bow and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to rent a movie tonight, and we're going to sit down and we're going to put bows on chocolate bars. So yeah, they can help me with things like that. My oldest is almost within the next year or two. I think he'll be at the age where I would really like to take him with me to some of these events and let him see how this actually works. And I think he'll be able to like help schedule calls with me from the events and be a little bit more hands-on. But at the same time, I have to be aware of my event host and the fact that they may not want a 7, 8, 9-year-old running around their event, right? That's an adult, it's a business event, right? So I want to make sure that I don't cause them any undue stress or anything like that.
Or yourself.
Or myself, but I mean, really, I feel like, I don't know if it's blessed or training or what, but I have really good kids. So I don't, even though they're boys and, you know, boys will be boys, I feel like they would understand the environment and they would do their absolute best to not intentionally create problems.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know
anyways,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. I know it was a real treat for me when I was asked to go back and teach a writing workshop for young writers as part of the Cape Cod Writers annual week-long event.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter was 16 that year, and I was able to take her with me. So I taught for part of the time, but we had a lot of time on our own to spend that week together. And that was a real treat for both of us. She did that instead of her senior trip elsewhere.
Yeah.
So there are
Yeah.
ways. But what I got from what you said is you're helping them understand what you do by helping you put together these VIP little treats. They're understanding you're going to be away,
Mm-hmm.
that they're involved with your success at some level with this, that they are helping you with manage your time and getting ready with all of this. Have you ever had a big hiccup where something you thought was going to go just right and there was interference that whether somebody was deliberately disruptive on the home front or just popped out of nowhere that you had to take care of?
Not really. Um, I would say no, not yet, not yet. But I do want to go back to something that you said a few minutes ago, um, about the kids being involved, and that is that while, you know, their direct involvement in what I'm doing is, I would say, it's minimal to moderate right now. You know, we look for those opportunities, but this is something I have seen in them. So my 12-year-old comes to me and he says, Mom, when I'm 16, I'm going to buy a lawnmower and a trailer and a weed eater and da 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 da, and I'm going to start my own lawn business. Well, you know what he did yesterday after school? He went over to a neighbor and he weed eated around their entire, like their pond, their house, their shed, their everything. And he came home and he's like, Mom, I just made $40. So
Whoa.
he spent all afternoon doing it. I mean, he worked hard for his money, but he earned good money doing it. And then my 6-year-old the other day, he has one of those collapsible laundry basket things, big round thing, probably about 3 foot tall. Anyways, I was like, buddy, what are you doing with all this paper? He kept getting paper and getting paper and getting paper. And I went in there and he says, Mommy, I made all these airplanes, paper airplanes, and I want to sell them. And so my kids they're learning entrepreneurship, right?
Yes.
They're learning how to take what they know to do and turn it into something that will make income for them to spend. You know, my youngest loves to put money in the offering plate at church. So that's what he puts his money for. My oldest I swear he's going to be an investor. He's always looking at like, what can I do to, you know, make this better, or, make more money or whatever. And then my middle one, he just has a heart of gold. So he's going to be like my philanthropist. So anyways, they are learning those skills. They're picking up on things that go beyond, you know, just tasks. So
I love that, because even if they go to work for someone else, you're instilling in them and they are kind of picking this up by osmosis, that they can be responsible for generating income to pay for the things that they want. And I think that's a lost message to many in our society these days, that just think they're entitled to things. They earn money, but they think it should be going only towards the things they want, not the necessities of life, where most of us adults, especially more mature adults that are, senior citizen age, we grew up where what you earned working covered your necessities, your food, shelter, clothing. And then if you wanted more than that, you found a way to earn more than that.
Exactly.
And it's kind of flipped. And that's really a sad thing to see. So I think one of the things that those of us who work from home really help establish is exactly what you just described, the entrepreneurial seed in another generation. And whether they grow up to have their own businesses, they have that mindset of I'm responsible for earning money, having it come into my life for me. I think that's awesome. Now, we do have a couple people with us. If you'd like to ask Natalie a question, you can pop that into the chat. If you would like to just come online and we can turn your camera on and your mic on, you can ask her that. I'm going to remind people, and some have already done this, but if you'd like to be on, if you're watching this live and you'd like to be notified of the replay, and you're able to put your email into a private chat, and I will see that. So it's not going to be out for everybody to see. If you are watching the replay of this, I've already got your email. So you don't need to, there won't be any place to do that.
Yeah.
All right. I have another question for you. What made you change from going outside and being a nurse to building your business at home?
So it was a lot of things. Primarily my desire to be home with my children. That was the primary reason. I was looking for opportunities where I could be more present in their lives. And I know, like, some of your viewers, they're like, Natalie, you just said you're getting ready to leave and fly across the country and be gone for days. How is that more present in their lives? This is intentional, because the life of a nurse, especially a nurse in a small town, is that you work your shifts and you're on call 24/7, 365, and you are mandated to work at least, well, each hospital's different, but the hospital that I worked at, you're mandated to work 2 major and 2 minor holidays throughout the year.
That's a lot of being on call.
It's a lot of being on call. It's a lot of getting called in right before a football game. It's a lot of being called in right before, an award ceremony. It's a lot of Christmases missed. It's a lot of Thanksgivings missed. And I did that for years and years and years. And yet at the same time, I always knew there was going to be this season where I had children, and that was going to be most important to me. And so I needed to find something different to do during that season. And it's, there may come a day where I decide I want to go back to that, and working holidays isn't going to be a big deal. But for right now, it is a big deal to me. And so right about the time I was having that realization, we had some restructuring in our organization, and I was given the opportunity for a promotion. And what I learned was that their idea of a promotion meant I would have lateral pay, I would work a 40-hour work week, and still be on call nights, weekends, and holidays, and be expected to come in. I live 40 miles from the hospital. I would be expected to come in at the drop of the hat at like 2 a.m. in the morning. And so I was like, thanks, but no thanks. This is going to take me further from my family instead of give me more time for my family. And so I had to find a new way to make money, and I kind of needed to do that pretty darn quick because I had just basically quit my job. Um, and so what I learned in that was that when you have an expertise, you can turn that expertise into income. So then it was like, okay, what's my expertise? And as I was looking around and researching and searching and daydreaming, as we all do when we're trying to reinvent ourselves, right? I found people who were good at organizing things. And so they were teaching people how to organize. There are people who are good at speaking. And so they teach other people how to speak, right? And what I realized was that the thing that I was good at was the thing that I had spent 15 years in corporate healthcare doing and had a master's degree in doing. And that was creating training programs, creating, audiovisual programs and things like that, coaching programs, online courses. And so I was like, okay, so this is my expertise. Program development is my expertise. Now, who can I do this for? Do I do it for another hospital? That kind of puts me back in the same boat that I was in. So I started looking at who needs these, beyond corporate healthcare. And I knew that I wanted to work with people who wanted to make an impact. I knew that I wanted to work with people who wanted bigger things in their life. They liked working with people. They wanted to create change. They love personal growth and development. And so when I started looking for those people, that's how I found coaches and speakers.
Mm-hmm.
And coaches and speakers need to create product, because product is what positions them as the expert. It demonstrates their experience. It shows that they have a commitment to excellence. And so it was like the perfect union, right? So that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years, is working with coaches and speakers to develop their signature programs and products so that they can continue to increase their influence and position themselves as the expert in their industry, and then also make more money for their business.
Did you get any slack back from maybe coworkers at the time saying, what the heck are you doing? You're throwing away your career, or your family, and not necessarily your core family group? Because I have found that there's two types: either those that are willing to let you try and will support and encourage you, and those that don't want anything to do with it, and they're not very supportive when you have an outside job either. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you've got the one that says, okay, if you want to try this, go for it. But were there others that thought you were out of your mind for trying to do this and giving up what you had studied in college to do?
I think there probably were, but I'm trying to figure out how to say this without sounding cocky, because it comes from a place of complete humility, but it doesn't sound like that when I say it. When I worked in corporate healthcare, a lot of what I did was pioneering, creating things that never existed before, creating service lines that didn't exist in the hospital. And so the people that I worked with, I had a track record of being successful at what I put my mind to doing. Okay. So when I said I wanted to do something different, they were supportive of that, because they knew it would impact people, and they knew that if I put my mind to doing it, I was probably going to do it anyway. So they might as well get on board. My family, my family has always been very encouraging. Whatever you want to do it. Now, yes, my mom is like, honey, how are you going to pay the bills? She's a good mom. She asks those questions. And sometimes we have to have somebody in our lives that asks the tough questions, so that we don't, get all excited about this grand idea that we've got and jump before there's anything underneath of us to land on. So,
Mhm.
and before I left, I felt like I sought the advice of wise people around me to the best that I could. Is this a good idea? What does this look like? Um, but ultimately, everybody has encouraged me. There are days that I've gone to my husband and I'm like, I don't, what am I doing? What's the next step? Like, how long do I keep pushing? And he's like, you can do this. Just go back and think about it again, or go take a walk and come back, and the idea will pop in my head, and I'm like, okay, here we go. This is the next step.
That's
um
great.
but I think the key piece to this is, while all of these things were happening externally, um there was a lot of prayer that went in even before changes started taking place. Like, I was seeking God and I was seeking his will for my life long before any of this. And so really that was the foundation that all of this started to be built upon, was what I felt he was calling me to do. And so, as things unraveled, and as the promotion came along and all of those kinds of things, I was kind of like, okay, God, I see what we've been preparing for is now starting to be laid out. And so now at this point, what I have to do, the only thing I have to do, is find the courage to follow.
Which leads us right into a question we have from Steve Henry. He says, I am really enjoying your presentation, Natalie. You made the jump from job to home-based business. When or how would you suggest people make that transition? Should they just jump right in cold turkey and give it your all, or build a business as a side gig until it makes enough to make the transition without risk?
Mm-hmm. I think that's good. Um, so the and I wish I had the exact quote in my head because I just looked this up, but the actual definition of an entrepreneur is someone who takes risk. So to think that you're going to build this business until you can transition without risk, that's a fallacy.
Yes.
Right? Now, I'm a planner. I like to have all the steps organized and know exactly when things are going to happen. It's life that never works, but I try to do the best that I can. So my advice to people is, make sure you have a calculated risk,
Mm.
right? So looking at, okay, do I have 4 to 6 months worth of savings to live on? If not, that's fine. That doesn't mean don't start your job, or start your business, but maybe you look at, can I do a part-time job, or can I free up just even 1 day a week to get started? And so then you can begin transitioning. There will probably come a point where your business and your income, like, you're maxed out, right? Maybe your business
Especially by
isn't.
time.
Yes, yes. Maybe your business isn't leaps and bounds ahead of what you're making in your job, but maybe you're maxed on time and you've got some good income coming from your business, but it's not double. You may have to take a calculated risk at that point and say, look, I know how to make money now. I know people need this product or service. And when I free up more time, that's going to lead to even more income for my business.
That I agree 100%. If you're waiting for the guarantee that you're going to be successful, you're going to be waiting forever.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
you do have to, and this is something that I'm not sure people hear from all big gurus, the ones that they know, the big ones. It's like, just jump right in. You don't need that safety net. If you really want this, just go for it. I don't think that's practical for most of us, and I
Mm-mm.
don't think it's wise for most of us.
Mm-mm.
I think the calculated risk is far wiser and more of a responsible nature, because we love our families. I mean, one of
Mm-hmm.
the reasons I left the corporate world after Well, I was farming for 25 years. I was in the corporate world before that, farmed for 25 years. So that was the business. And I started the side gig while doing that and did the side gig for 25 years. When that ended unexpectedly in divorce, I had to earn an income. So I went
Mm-hmm.
back into the corporate world,
Mm-hmm.
never giving up my side hustle at all, but never looking at it as full time. And then there came a time in 2007 where it's like, if I'm going to do this full time, I really want to do it now. I already got the history that, yeah, I can find clients to work with.
Mm-hmm.
I was leaving the stability and the financial security net of that job. But I also had a new husband who had major medical problems and needed a lot more home care. And
Mm-hmm.
the only way I could be flexible to provide that home care was to take that calculated risk. And the one thing
Mm-hmm.
about that calculated risk is if there is that guarantee that, okay, you're not going to lose your home if this fails, because some people do have that second income or have an inheritance that they don't have to worry about the financial side as much as other people do. But when you do, you hustle more.
Right.
You don't put it off, and we can still procrastinate and plan ourselves into wasting a lot of time on busy work rather than work that pays off.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if you have another question, we have a couple more people in the room joining us. If you have a question, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. Steve has a follow-up to what you said and what I said, and he said, love it. And regarding making plans, a mentor of mine once shared, set your goals in concrete and draw your plans in the sand. And I love that because
So wise.
when I had a corporate job with Gannett selling Yellow Page advertising, and also before that, when I was a newspaper journalist and assistant editor, and then I moved into the sales part of that, our corporate plans, were pretty much in concrete. They set the goal and I could set it 10% high or
Mm-hmm.
whatever I wanted. But the procedures were all set there. I didn't get to say, oh no, I'm going to follow this plan. There's very little leeway. At home,
Right.
flexibility, make it your friend.
Yes. Yes. And the other part to that is you have the flexibility to move and to weave and everything like that, but also making sure that you oh, okay. Your screen's freezing just a little bit, so I wasn't sure if you lost me or not. um, to make sure that when you're building your business, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Because if you just have this one thing, and I don't mean just one business or one thing that you do in your business, I mean one way of marketing your business. If you just have one thing, then as the market ebbs and flows, you're going to go on some pretty extravagant rides. And so, one of the things that creating a signature program or products or things like that can do for your business is it can give you a little bit of a buffer, because it gives you multiple streams of income. And so when maybe you're gone a lot and you don't have time to um, work with a lot of clients one-on-one, you have some passive income coming in on the background from some of the products that you've created. Or maybe you're spending some time working, or let's say maybe you're not creating products as much as you want to, but you're wanting to work with people more one-to-one. Well, that's another way to make really good money fast, because you're creating or you're providing a direct service to people, which is of a higher value. So that's really one of the things that I think is important when you're building out your business, is making sure that you have multiple streams of income coming in. And it helps you to leverage your time as well. right? So when you want to be enjoying Thanksgiving dinner with your family instead of worrying about, oh my gosh, I've got all these sales calls to make, like you look over here and you're like, oh, I just sold 10 products at $100 a piece, and I just made $1,000 while I was sitting here eating Thanksgiving dinner. You
That's
know?
yeah, that passive income after the work's done. Because even
Yes.
passive income, there's some work involved with passive income. Well, I love what you've shared with us today. And I know that you have a free resource that people can get from you. So just take a moment or two to describe that. Again, if you're joining us and you would like access to the replay later on and a reminder of the link to go to get Natalie or any of our other speakers a free resource today. And you'll also be put on the Rocking Your Path newsletter list, which you can unsubscribe from if you decide not to keep that. Make sure and put your email in to the chat area. And let's see here. So Natalie, you're going to come back on screen here and go ahead and tell us about your free resource. Oops.
There we go. Hi.
Don't know how that happened.
It was a Zoom glitch. It kicked me out, and then I came back in. So, anyways, so as my business is growing, I am doing this interview with you right as I am transferring platforms. So all of my materials and everything like that are currently being moved onto a larger, more comprehensive platform. And so rather than give you a link that may dead end at some point, what I want to do is just encourage you. You can email me, Natalie at natalielavelock.com, or you can find me on Facebook at Natalie Lavelock. And what I want you to do, what my offer for you today is, I have a free dynamic workshop training, because a workshop is something that you can do either free or very low cost to get in front of a larger number of people, which creates leverage in your business. And you can work with those people and give them an experience of working with you and potentially create some sales from that. And there's ways that we can set up your workshop depending on whether it's like your very first workshop or whether you're ready to do, a 2-day workshop. But there are ways that you can do that. And so I'm going to offer you a live training that I did for some of my audience. And it's called Dynamic Workshops. Along with that live training, well, it's a recording now, but the training that I did for my people live, you're going to get a workbook that goes along with that can actually help you start mapping out what your workshop would be. So you can get both of those if you just email me, Natalie at Natalie Lavelock, or you can just message me from my business page at Natalie Lavelock on Facebook, and I will get those materials sent to you.
All right, and I'm going to put that in the chat, your email address in the chat right now for those who are sitting there. And then we have one last question from Tina to kind of wrap us up here. She says, thanks for talking to us today. How do you refocus when you get sidetracked and lose that focus on those goals and values you set? Depression, life hiccups, moves, etc.
Mm-hmm. And those things do happen. And I think that's where grace comes in. You have to give yourself the grace to get through those situations. And for some people, it may be, okay, I'm moving. I just need to take a week off and make the move, and I'll hit it again next week. For other people, yes, I'm moving, and I'm just going to give an example. Like, typically I email my audience twice in a week and I go live in Facebook 3 times a week. But because I'm moving this week, I'm going to shoot for once. Just give yourself permission to do what life is throwing at you and to weave and bob and flow. the other thing is, and I think really what it boils down to is overcoming perfectionism. Because we think that once we've got something started, we have to continue at that level or continue to up level. And we all have lives. We know that each other, we have lives, right? And we know things are going to come up unexpectedly. And practice the grace that you would want someone to give you in a difficult situation. So, you know, if your coach is having to reschedule because something happens and you're like, oh my gosh, no, life happens. I get it. We'll catch up as soon as we can. And, you know, the same thing for yourself. Life happens. We need to take a step back and just kind of deal with this. And that's exactly where your priorities list comes in. What is the priority? Having shelter, right? Family. If family is a top priority, then when those things come up and you're having to move or somebody's in the hospital or whatever, you're going to know that's where I need to be, and I'm not going to feel guilty about it because that's my priority.
Exactly.
That's where I need to be. And when the crisis is over, when the urgency is over, I'll come back and pick up where I left off.
Yes, absolutely. And just as we showed this morning, with you having no internet and mine being funky during the evening because of storms, if you sit and say, oh, all these terrible things are happening to me, woe is me, you will get more depressed, more stuck, and nothing will work. So what you and I both did is say, okay, what are potential solutions to this problem we have right now? And we had a backup plan. I had like plan B, C, and D for today. So we had backup plans. And I think what you said about doing that and not being guilty about having to make those changes, make those adjustments. Hi there, and that's just perfect. I want him to wave to everybody.
Where makes the high sound?
Letter H. He wants to know what letter makes the huh sound.
That's very cool. Well, that's perfect to wrap up for today. Thank you, Natalie, for joining us. Your secrets to success at work and at home really help set the foundation for all that we're talking about today. For those of you here, you can just stay here, and Cindy, our next speaker, is in the room. Natalie, I know you're going to be leaving us because you're on your data plan with your phone right now.
Yes, I hate that I'm going to miss it.
And good luck with your speaking engagement coming up. Stay in touch, and I will make sure that everybody who wants to get in touch with you will have your information to do that. Thank you again.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kat. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.